From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
A water and sewer district here in the small town of Logan is on the horizon. I'm Jolie Slee, and I'll tell you how this will impact the town, and I'll tell you why one business owner says it's the only way for businesses and homeowners to use their property moving forward.
Up next, I'll tell you about a birder who found inspiration in an unlikely place.
Coming up tonight, we celebrate a birthday of a World War II veteran who turns 101.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Not many of those left, are there?
Wow.
That's it. Sadly, not very many of those World War II veterans at all left.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's a good story. Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's 6:31. Chet Lehman, Jane McDonald, Matt Elwell with you here on this kind of gray, chilly...
With rays of sunshine poking through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a mixed bag out there.
It's pretty gray off to the north.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a little tuft of moisture trying to work through. I think as we go through the day, there is a chance that we could see a few light raindrops. So we're not talking anything heavy, and it's not going to be consistent, I don't believe. 40s and 50s for the morning. Here's a look at our futurecast. I do expect to see showers, and it looks like it's covering a large area. The problem is a lot of this is going to evaporate before it actually hits the ground, so I don't think we're going to see much end up in the rain bucket overall. 60s for Bozeman. It looks like Butte will be into the 50s. We do have a slight warm up before another big drop in temperatures. We'll, of course, break that down coming up in our main weather segment.
All right, thank you, Matt. 6:32. We start just down the road to the west here in Logan. The small town of Logan has some big plans to create a water and sewer district.
But as MTN's Jolie Slee reports, it's no tiny cost.
The small town of Logan is making some big steps toward finally having their own water and sewer district. In fact, one business owner says it's the only way for businesses and homeowners to use their property moving forward.
We have a lot of empty lots that could be built on if we had a sewer system. Yeah, they could. Yeah, that might happen. You know, it's a desirable little place. It's nice down here in Logan.
It's a small town with big plans. $1 to $3 million plans.
Depends on how big of a system we have to put in, you know, and how elaborate the system has to be.
Jay McCurry is the owner of Land of Magic Steakhouse in Logan, and although he may not live in Logan, he's one of the 5 board members working toward creating a water and sewer district in town.
Well, this was our second attempt, and it did go through, so we were pretty fortunate and happy that it did go through.
In May, Logan voters approved creating the water and sewer district that McCurry says will solve the issue of contamination.
Yeah, we'll clean up the groundwater through town here.
In Logan, folks rely on septic systems and drainage fields because of a lack of a sewer system.
And one of the biggest problems is when you have to replace your drain field, you have to put it in a whole new spot. It cannot be put back in the original spot.
And most people don't have the room to do that, as the average lot size in town is 50 by 140 feet. That system and drainage field end up next to a neighboring well, which leads to contamination, which isn't good for the 72 people who live in Logan. But why does such a small amount of people need a $3 million water and sewer system? Gallatin County Local Water Quality District Manager Nick Banish says it's because they're extremely beneficial. 16 towns in Gallatin County are making use of them, and Banish says even a small town like Logan should be able to reap the benefits.
I think it's a total win for the community of Logan to have that water and sewer district that's just going to provide a level of protection for their human health.
And protection for McCurry's restaurant, Land of Magic. He says the drain field filling up causes failures at the restaurant, and a water and sewer district will allow them to have longer hours and serve more folks.
Just thanking all the people that are in support of us and the people that are working to get this going through.
For more information on the water and sewer district in Logan, you can visit our website. In Bozeman, Jolie Slee, MTN News.
All right, thank you, Jolie. 6:35 now on the national scene. Former President Donald Trump defiant following his appearance at a Miami federal courthouse on Tuesday.
Our Joe St. George breaks down what happened and what may happen next in Mr. Trump's ongoing legal cases.
Well, we don't know when former President Donald Trump will be back at this federal courthouse in Miami. South Florida is known as having what's known as a rocket docket, the speed in which cases in South Florida move through the system and quickly move to trial, although that is for usual cases. And a case involving the former president, is a highly unusual one. Former President Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, saying in court Tuesday, "We most certainly enter a plea of not guilty." The former president was not required to take a mugshot. The court uploaded an existing one. He was also not forced to turn over his passport. That sometimes happens in federal cases. There are no restrictions on international travel for Mr. Trump or any firearms. The only real restriction, Mr. Trump was told by the judge that he could not speak with any potential witness in the case about the facts of this case. As far as what's next for Mr. Trump in this case, we know that Mr. Trump's co-defendant, Walt Nauta, is set to be back here in federal court later this month to enter his plea. Remember, this is just one case in Miami. A trial in New York City is set for late March. In that indictment, which focuses on alleged falsifying of business records, all eyes shift now to Georgia, where a possible indictment in that case could happen later this summer, perhaps in late July or early August. Prosecutors in Fulton County, Georgia, have asked the court there to not schedule any major cases around that time. One thing is clear: if former President Trump and President Biden end up in a rematch in 2024, look for this issue to be a big topic in the first debate. After all, President Biden is facing a special counsel inquiry as well into alleged mishandling of classified documents. President Biden's legal team says, though, there's a key difference, that when his team discovered their documents, they immediately turned them over. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Miami.
All right, thank you, Joe. 6:37 now. Back here at home, a Montana Tech student has found an interesting hobby.
That's absolutely right. MTN's Megan Thompson introduces us to the student who found a great place for bird watching.
Well, inspiration can come from the most unlikely of places, like this pond located next to the interstate in Butte. It's one of the many urban waterways that are little hidden gems that have helped a tech student find his passion for birding through the Berkeley Pit Waterfowl Protection Program.
For the Berkeley Pit Waterfowl Protection Program, my job, or our job in the area, is to give the people at the pit an idea of what kind of species are in the area, since they use a species-based hazing program up there.
The students involved in the program are an extra set of eyes for the Montana Resources team, who work to keep birds off the toxic waters. But for Dr. Stella Capiscia, the work being done by her team also raises the importance of urban wetlands in a society that views these areas as ugly and useless.
We have a lot of words for urban wetlands that are less desirable: bogs, swamps, mucky areas. And when you stop and look at the diversity that you have in these areas, you realize how important they are. And so looking at an urban wetland for its reproductive purposes shows you how certain species really rely on these little isolated water islands to be able to have their babies and raise them and contribute to the production of the species.
I see a baby right behind you.
Let's take a look and see what it is. And there might be a coot, and oh, there's a baby coot. Oh my goodness!
For Dr. Capiscia and her team, the wetlands also provide a positive space for humans as they can connect with a little island of nature within the city.
When you're here at sunrise, you know, or you're out on the other ponds at sunrise, it's, I don't know, I get a peace from it, you know, a sense of peace, clarity, kind of. You get to watch all these different animals kind of going about their daily routines, and you know, it's a form of meditation, I think.
In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
Downside to that.
That is such a neat story.
That's a win-win for everybody.
Wow.
I love that. It's a great story. Thank you, Megan, for that. Boy, they're often called the greatest generation, but sadly we are losing many of our World War II veterans literally every day.
Yeah, that's why it is a privilege for us this morning to honor a veteran from Montana who recently celebrated her birthday. MTN's Paul Sanchez takes us to the celebration.
There is a lot of military veterans here in Montana, and we celebrate one of our World War II veterans who turned 101. Marianne Jean Setter, born in 1922, but all of her friends call her Jean. She enlisted in the Army in 1945 as a nurse and served for 31 years.
Well, the first station I had was for basic training was at Fort Lewis, Washington. That was about 6 weeks, I think I was there. And then I went to a general hospital in California that was in the San Joaquin Valley. Then I had an assignment with a hospital train out of San Francisco. taking patients that were coming back from the Pacific. And during that time, we also received POWs who had been in Japan, some of them for as long as 4 years.
Well, 75 years ago, President Harry S. Truman signed into law the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, allowing for the first time women to serve in all of the military branches.
Amazing story of an amazing female veteran who is 101 years old. Ms. Jean Setter was her name, and she just shared a great story. I met her during one of her exams and was able to talk to her, and then wanted to just expand on that and share that with everybody. So really glad that we got to meet with her, and also to celebrate the 75th anniversary of women being integrated into the military.
What do you want to do in the next 100 years?
The first 100 were enough for me.
Good answer.
Even at 101, Jean is able to make a crowd laugh and put a smile on everyone's face.
From the VA clinic here in Great Falls, I'm Paul Sanchez for MTN News.
Happy birthday.
I just love that.
Thank you.
Anytime that I think we can highlight any of our service member, but I mean, when you talk about the greatest generation,
Right.
it strikes a chord, I
And
think, with
she's
so
truly
many.
a pioneer in the military from, 101 years old.
Yeah, pretty
Love that.
amazing.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much, Jean, for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely.
All right, time for a quick break here on Montana This Morning.